Admiral Jiho had thought he would die in the first battle above Jupiter. Instead, he found himself commanding Earth's counterattack from the bridge of a captured Vorthak dreadnought. The alien ship was massive, its weapons powerful enough to crack continents, but it groaned under the weight of human modifications and jury-rigged repairs. "Status of the fleet?" he asked, looking out at the mixed force of human and captured alien vessels that now defended Earth. 87 ships operational, reported Lieutenant Haywan, now promoted to commander after 8 months of war. The civilian volunteers have managed to get their mining ships' weapons online. Jiho nodded. The fleet looked nothing like the disciplined force that had first met the Vorthak invasion. It was a collection of survivors held together by determination and creative engineering. But it had something the enemy fleet lacked. It was fighting for home. On the planet below, the final battle for Earth raged across 6 continents simultaneously. Colonel Bei Jin coordinated the global resistance from his command bunker, deep beneath Seoul, watching tactical displays that showed human forces emerging from months of hiding. "All units, this is command," he broadcast on every frequency. "Today we take back our world. Today we show the galaxy what humans are made of." Major So-min led the assault on the Vorthak command center in downtown Seoul. Her forces included everyone who could hold a weapon, soldiers and civilians, teenagers and grandparents, teachers and mechanics. They moved through streets they had once called home, now scarred by months of occupation. The enemy had fortified every building, turned every intersection into a killing field. But the humans knew these streets in ways the aliens never could. They had grown up here, played here, lived their entire lives here. Every alley was familiar. Every building held memories. "Remember," So-min told her troops as they prepared for the final assault, "we're not just fighting for victory. We're fighting for the right to call this place home." 16-year-old Hyunwoo and his sister Nari had become legends in the resistance. Their modified construction mech had terrorized Vorthak patrols for months. But today they fought on foot like everyone else. The mech lay in pieces after their last battle, but the siblings had learned to be dangerous with simpler weapons. "Stay close," Hyunwoo told his sister as they moved through the rubble-filled streets. "When this is over, we'll rebuild everything. Make it better than before." Nari smiled, her rifle ready in her hands. At 15, she had seen more war than most soldiers. But she had also seen what humans could accomplish when they refused to give up. "I want to help design the new city," she said. "One that can defend itself better." The battle for the command center began at dawn. Human forces attacked from 6 different directions, using tactics they had learned through 8 months of brutal urban warfare. They moved through buildings like ghosts, struck from unexpected angles, disappeared before the enemy could respond. The Vorthak fought back with the desperation of trapped predators. Their weapons carved through concrete and steel, but the humans kept coming. For every fighter that fell, 2 more took their place. These weren't soldiers following orders. These were people defending everything they had ever loved. Commander Gracht stood in the command center and watched his perfect defenses crumble. His troops were exhausted, demoralized, cut off from supply lines. The humans attacked constantly, giving no time to rest or regroup. "Sir," his lieutenant reported, "we're receiving evacuation requests from all sectors. The humans have breakthrough points across the entire perimeter." Gracht looked at the tactical display. Red markers showed human advance all across the city. For months, he had held the center while the humans controlled the edges. Now the edges were closing in like a tightening noose. "How many troops do we have left?" "Less than 40% of original strength. And they're scattered across 20 different positions." The alien commander closed his eyes. He had conquered 12 worlds for the Vorthak Empire. Earth would not be the 13th, but perhaps survival was victory enough. In space above Earth, the final naval battle raged between the orbital platforms. Admiral Jiho led his mixed fleet against the remaining Vorthak forces, with tactics that would have seemed insane to any military academy. Human ships rammed enemy vessels. Cargo haulers loaded with explosives became suicide weapons. Mining ships used industrial equipment to tear through alien hulls. Captain Tae-in, commanding her captured destroyer, pressed her attack against a Vorthak heavy cruiser. Her ship was held together by hope and emergency welds, but her crew had learned to fight like their lives depended on it because they did. "All weapons. Concentrate fire on their engine section," she ordered. "If we can't outgun them, we'll outrun them to death." The human ships moved like a pack of wolves. harrying the larger enemy vessels until their shields failed, their weapons overheated, their crews made mistakes. It wasn't elegant warfare, but it was effective. Dr. Yejin watched the battle from her laboratory and felt a mixture of pride and sadness. Her shield disruptor had given humanity the weapon they needed to fight back. But victory would come at a terrible cost. Earth's cities lay in ruins. Millions had died. The scars would take generations to heal, but they would heal. Humans were good at healing, good at rebuilding, good at starting over. It was one of the things that made them dangerous to conquer. Supreme Commander Hesital stood in his command throne and faced the most difficult decision of his military career. His invasion fleet was broken. His ground forces were defeated. His perfect record of conquest lay in ashes. Around him, his staff waited for orders. They had never retreated from a primitive world before. They had never abandoned a conquest. But they had also never fought humans before. "Open a channel to the human resistance," Hestal commanded. Colonel Beijin's image appeared on the screen. The human looked tired but unbroken. Behind him, the sounds of battle continued. His people were still fighting even as they negotiated. "I offer terms," Hesital said, the words like acid in his throat. "The terms are simple," Beijin replied. "Leave our system. Never come back. Tell the galaxy that Earth is defended by humans and humans don't surrender." "And if we refuse?" Beijin smiled. The same fearless smile that had infuriated alien conquerors for 8 months. "Then we keep killing you until there aren't enough of you left to matter." The transmission ended. Hestal looked around his command center at faces that showed the strain of a campaign that had cost too much. His empire stretched across dozens of star systems. He had fleets to command, other worlds to conquer, but Earth had taught him that some victories cost more than they were worth. "Signal the fleet," he ordered quietly. "All ships prepare for withdrawal." The evacuation began immediately. Fourth-Act dropships landed in contested zones to extract ground forces. The human resistance pressed their attacks, making every minute of withdrawal cost blood. They could have made it easy for the aliens to leave. Instead, they made sure the departure would be remembered. Elder Kirmoth watched the Vorthak fleet retreat from the Sol system and felt something he had not experienced in millennia: wonder. In all his long existence, he had never seen a species fight with such determination. The humans had been outnumbered, outgunned, and trapped on their own world. By every measure, they should have lost. Instead, they had done something the galaxy thought impossible. They had forced the Vorthak to retreat. 3 days later, Ambassador Tae-Jin stood before the Galactic Confederation's emergency session. The chamber was packed with delegates who had come to witness something unprecedented: a primitive species that had survived first contact with the Vorthak Empire. "The war is over," Tae-Jin announced. "Earth remains under human control. Our system is defended, our people are free, and our cities are already being rebuilt." The chamber erupted in noise. Some delegates chittered in amazement. Others made sounds of disbelief. A few seemed frightened by what this meant for the galaxy's balance of power. Elder Kirmoth floated forward, his ancient form shimmering with inner light. "Tell us, Ambassador," he said, his mental voice reaching every being in the chamber. "What price did your species pay for this victory?" Tae-Jin's face grew somber. 12 million dead, 5 major cities destroyed, our orbital infrastructure in ruins. But, he paused, looking directly at the elder, Earth still belongs to humanity. Our children still play in our parks. Our artists still create beauty. Our scientists still reach for the stars. That was worth any price. The Aquinas delegate Fluxara clicked sadly. So much death. So much destruction. Was it truly worth it? "Yes," Tae-Jin replied without hesitation. "Because Earth is our home. And humans will never surrender their home. Not to anyone, not for anything." A new delegate spoke up, a representative of the Stellar Commerce Guild. "What does this mean for the galaxy? If a primitive species can defeat the Vorthak, it means," Tae-Jin said quietly, "that the galaxy is about to learn what humans can accomplish when we put our minds to it. We've spent 8 months learning alien technology, alien tactics, alien ways of thinking. Now we're going to put that knowledge to work." The chamber fell silent. For the first time in galactic history, a species had not just survived first contact with a superior force. They had won. The implications would ripple across the stars for generations. Captain Tae-in had never expected to command a Vorthak destroyer, but war had taught her many unexpected things. The ship hummed around her with alien energy, its controls jury-rigged with human modifications and desperate ingenuity. Around her, the bridge crew worked at stations they had learned to operate through trial and error, often at the cost of lives. "Status report," she called out, her voice carrying the authority her father, Ambassador Tae-jin, had taught her. "All human vessels reporting ready," replied Lieutenant Kim, hunched over a communications console that sparked occasionally. "The merchant fleet has managed to install the new shield disruptors." Through the viewport, Tae-in could see her ragtag fleet, mining ships bristling with salvaged weapons, passenger liners converted into troop transports, cargo haulers carrying bombs instead of supplies. Every human who had escaped Earth's outer colonies had found a way to fight back. News traveled slowly between star systems, but when word reached the scattered human settlements that Earth was under siege, something remarkable happened. Every human ship, no matter how small or defenseless, turned around and headed home. They came from mining asteroids and research stations, from trading posts and exploration vessels. They came to die if necessary, but they came. Commander Jin-soo had been a freight captain before the war. Now he led a squadron of converted cargo ships against Vorthak patrol vessels. His ship, the Resilient, had been designed to carry grain. Today it carried enough explosives to level a city. "Target acquired," his gunner reported. "Vorthak heavy cruiser, bearing 27 Mark IV. Jin-soo studied the enemy vessel through his scope. It was beautiful in a deadly way, its hull flowing with energy patterns that no human fully understood. 6 months ago, seeing such a ship would have filled him with wonder. Now it just made him angry. "All ships execute attack pattern 7, he ordered. "Let's show them what humans learn when we're motivated." The human ships moved like wolves hunting a bear. Individually, they were no match for the Vorthak cruiser. Together, they were deadly. They had studied enemy tactics for months, learning from every battle, every loss, every small victory. The Vorthak returned fire with weapons that could crack moons. The human ships scattered using asteroids and debris for cover. 2 freighters were destroyed, their crews dying in balls of plasma fire, but the others pressed on. Jin-soo's ship drove straight at the enemy vessel. At the last moment, he released his cargo. 1,000 modified mining charges, each one programmed to home in on Vorthak shield frequencies. The explosion lit up local space like a new star. Meanwhile, on Earth's surface, Dr. Yejin emerged from her underground laboratory with eyes red from sleepless nights and hands stained with alien technology. She carried a small device that might change the course of the war. "It works," she announced to Colonel Beijin and the other resistance leaders gathered in the bunker. "The shield disruptor actually works. The device was smaller than a human hand but contained technology, reverse-engineered from a dozen different Vorthak systems. Dr. Yejin had spent 8 months learning how alien machines thought, how their energy patterns flowed, how their defensive systems operated. "How do we use it?" asked Major Somin. "We need to get within 50 meters of their command ship," Dr. Yejin explained. "The virus will spread through their network, disrupting shield harmonics across their entire fleet." Colonel Beijin looked at the device, then at the faces around him. 50 meters means a suicide mission." "Not necessarily," Somin replied with a grim smile. "I've got an idea." Above the planet, Elder Kirmuth's observation ship had been watching the siege for months. The ancient being had come to witness another species defeat, as he had witnessed so many before. Instead, he found himself watching something that challenged everything. He thought he knew about war. "Status report," he requested from his ship's intelligence system. "The human resistance continues across all continents. Vorthak casualty rates remain 3 times higher than projected. Supply lines are under constant attack. Morale among invasion forces is declining." Kirmuth processed this information with growing amazement. In his long existence, he had never seen a primitive species fight with such effectiveness. The humans were outgunned, outnumbered, and trapped on their own world. By every military doctrine in the galaxy, they should have surrendered months ago. "Show me comparative analysis," he commanded. Data flowed through his consciousness. The Vorthak had conquered 47 worlds. The average conquest time was 6 weeks. Earth had held out for 8 months and showed no signs of surrender. More disturbing were the casualty figures. The Vorthak had lost more ships in this campaign, than in their previous 10 conquests combined. Their ground forces were exhausted, constantly under attack by an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere. The humans are learning, Kirmoth realized. They adapt to every tactic, every weapon, every strategy. They turn the Vorthak's own strength against them. On Earth, the Resistance launched their most daring operation yet. Major So-Min led a team of volunteers through the ruined streets of Seoul, carrying Dr. Yejin's shield disruptor toward the massive Vorthak command ship that had landed in the city center. The alien vessel was a fortress of metal and energy, defended by hundreds of troops. Getting close seemed impossible. So-Min had a different plan. "Remember," she told her team as they moved through the underground tunnels, "we don't need to fight our way in. We just need to get close enough." The team included Hyunwoo and Nari, now experienced resistance fighters despite their youth. Nari's arm had healed, but she still carried scars from their first battle. Her brother had grown harder over the months of war, his eyes holding the look of someone who had seen too much. "There," Nari whispered, pointing through a crack in the tunnel wall. "The ship's hull is only 30 meters away." So-Min activated the device. Dr. Yejin had programmed it to broadcast the virus through the alien ship's own communication systems. If it worked, every Vorthak vessel in the system would lose their shields within minutes. The device hummed with alien energy, its surface glowing with patterns that hurt human eyes to look at directly. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then alerts began sounding throughout the enemy ship. "It's working," Hyunwoo breathed. Above them, the Vorthak command ship's shields flickered and died. Emergency lights flashed across the vessel's hull as systems failed throughout the ship. The virus spread through their network like wildfire, jumping from ship to ship faster than the aliens could react. Commander Jinsu saw the enemy shields fail from his position in the asteroid belt. "All ships," he broadcast, "their defenses are down. Attack now!" The human fleet struck like an avalanche. Ships that had been hiding behind asteroids and debris suddenly revealed themselves. Weapons that had been useless against Vorthak shields now found their targets. For the first time since the invasion began, human forces had the advantage. The battle raged across the solar system. On Earth's surface, resistance fighters emerged from their tunnels and attacked Vorthak positions with renewed fury. In space, human ships pressed their advantage against confused and demoralized enemy forces. Supreme Commander Hesital stood in his command center and watched his perfect invasion fall apart. His shields were failing. His ground troops were cut off. His fleet was taking heavy casualties from weapons they had dismissed as primitive. "Sir," his aide reported, "we're receiving surrender requests from ground commanders on 3 continents. They're requesting immediate evacuation." Hesital felt something crack inside his chest. His people did not surrender. They conquered or they died. But Earth was teaching them a third option: retreat. "How?" he asked the empty air. "How do these primitives fight like this?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Elder Kirmoth's voice filled the command center, transmitted on a frequency reserved for diplomatic communications. "Because you never understood what you were fighting," the ancient being said. "You saw primitive ships and assumed primitive minds. You saw small numbers and assumed easy victory. But you missed the most important thing about humans." "What?" Hestal demanded. "They were fighting for their only home," Kirmoth replied, "and creatures defending their only home fight like nothing else in the universe." As Vorthak ships began withdrawing from Earth orbit, Colonel Beijin stood in the ruins of Seoul and watched the sky clear for the first time in 8 months. The war wasn't over. It might never be over. But Earth still belonged to humanity. The galaxy had learned a new lesson. Some worlds were too expensive to conquer. Some species fought too hard to break. And sometimes, the smallest and weakest could teach the largest and strongest what it really meant to be strong. The sky above Seoul burned orange as plasma beams from the Vorthak ships carved through the atmosphere. Colonel Beijin crouched in the ruins of what had once been a shopping mall, watching enemy dropships land in the distance. Each transport was the size of a city block and carried enough troops to conquer a small nation. But Earth was not a small nation, and humans were not conquered easily. "Report," Beijin said into his radio. "Sector 7 holding," came Major So-Min's voice through the static. "They tried to take the university again. We gave them a warm welcome." Beijin smiled grimly. So-Min's warm welcome usually involved homemade explosives and carefully planned ambushes. The Vorthak had learned to fear human creativity almost as much as human stubbornness. "Sir?" said Sergeant Park, appearing through the rubble like a ghost. "We've got movement 3 blocks north." "Looks like a full company heading this way." Beijing nodded. The Vorthak had been trying to secure the city center for 3 months now. Every day they advanced. Every night the humans took it back. The aliens were stronger, faster, and better armed. But they had never faced an enemy that treated every building as a fortress and every street as a battlefield. In the tunnels beneath the city, 16-year-old Hyunwoo checked the jury-rigged controls of his construction mech. The massive machine had once been used to build skyscrapers. Now it was a weapon of war, its industrial arms fitted with salvaged Vorthak plasma cutters. "You ready for this?" he asked his sister Nari, who was operating the targeting system from the mech's cockpit. "Born ready," she replied, though her voice shook slightly. At 14, she was one of the youngest resistance fighters, but she had already learned to use captured alien technology better than most adults. The Vorthak patrol entered the intersection above them, right on schedule. These aliens were professional soldiers, their natural armor plating making them look like walking tanks. Each one stood 7 feet tall and carried weapons that could punch through concrete. Hyunwoo's mech burst from beneath the street like a metal monster. The Vorthak barely had time to react before industrial claws designed to lift steel beams were tearing through their ranks. Nari's targeting was perfect. Every shot from their salvaged weapons found its mark, but the enemy wasn't helpless. Return fire lit up the street. One plasma burst caught the mech's left arm, melting through the metal like butter. Another hit Nari's position. "Nari!" Hyunwoo screamed as sparks flew from the damaged cockpit. His sister's voice was weak but determined. "I'm okay. Left arm's hurt, but I can still fight." The boy's vision went red with rage. These aliens had invaded his world, destroyed his city, and hurt his family. They wanted Earth? They could have it, one burning street at a time. The mech's remaining arm swung like a giant hammer, smashing through the enemy formation. Hyunwoo drove the machine forward, using it like a battering ram. 2 Vorthak soldiers tried to flee, but there was nowhere to run. The narrow streets that had once carried traffic now became death traps for invaders. Across the city, similar battles raged. Dr. Ye-jin worked frantically in her hidden laboratory, surrounded by pieces of captured Vorthak equipment. Every device the aliens used was studied, copied, and turned against them. Their own technology became humanity's weapon. "I think I've got it," she told her assistant, holding up a small device. "This should disrupt their shield harmonics. If we can mass-produce these..." An explosion shook the building above them. Dust rained from the ceiling, but Dr. Ye-jin never stopped working. Earth's survival might depend on what she discovered in this basement laboratory. Commander Graketh stood in his command post overlooking the city and tried to understand what had gone wrong. His troops were the best in the Vorthak military. They had conquered dozens of worlds, but Earth was bleeding them dry. "Report," he ordered his lieutenant. "We control 60% of the city during daylight hours," the lieutenant reported, "but every night the humans take back what we gained. Our casualty rate is 3 times higher than projected." Graketh studied the tactical display. Red dots marked Vorthak positions. They looked strong, but he knew better. Each position was under constant attack. His soldiers couldn't sleep without guards. They couldn't move without watching for ambushes. The humans had turned their own city into a weapon. What about the other continents? Similar patterns everywhere. The humans fight differently than any species we've encountered. They don't have military formations or strategic command structures. Every civilian seems to be a potential combatant, it was true. The Vorthak had expected to face human soldiers. Instead, they fought teachers who had learned to make explosives, doctors who treated wounds by day and planted bombs by night, children who knew the streets better than any map. In the tunnels beneath London, New York, Tokyo, and 100 other cities, the pattern was the same. Humans learned. They adapted. They turned everything into a weapon. Major Somin led her Special Forces team through the abandoned subway system. Their target was a Vorthak supply depot 2 miles behind enemy lines. The mission was suicide, everyone knew it. They went anyway. "Remember," she told her team as they prepared to breach the depot, "we're not here to win. We're here to make them pay." The attack lasted 17 minutes. When it was over, the depot was destroyed and Somin's team was gone. But those supplies would never reach the front lines. The Vorthak would have to bring more from their ships using resources they couldn't spare. Across Earth, the pattern repeated. Humans died by the thousands, but they made every death count. They couldn't match alien technology, so they made the aliens fight on human terms. Close quarters. Urban warfare. Street by street, building by building, room by room. Supreme Commander Hesital received the daily reports from orbit and felt something he had never experienced before. Doubt. The invasion was supposed to take weeks. It had lasted months. His fleet was running low on supplies. His ground forces were exhausted. "Sir," his aide reported, "we're receiving requests for reinforcements from all theaters. The humans are persistent." Hestal looked at the planet below. From space, Earth looked peaceful. Blue oceans, white clouds, green continents. It was beautiful. It was also the most dangerous world he had ever tried to conquer. "Open a channel to the human resistance," he ordered. Colonel Beijin's image appeared on the screen, transmitted from somewhere deep underground. The human looked tired but unbroken. "This is pointless," Hesital said. "You cannot win. Your weapons are inferior. Your numbers are limited. Every day you lose ground." Beijin smiled. Actually smiled. "Every day we're still here is a day you haven't won. How long can you afford to stay?" The alien commander had no answer for that. His fleet needed to return to base for resupply soon. Other worlds required his attention, but Earth refused to fall. "Your people are dying for nothing," Hesital said. "No," Beijin replied. "They're dying for everything." The transmission ended, leaving Hesital alone with his thoughts. He had conquered 47 worlds. Earth would not be the 48th. But it might be the world that taught the galaxy a new truth. Some planets were too expensive to take. Below, in the burning cities of Earth, humans continued to fight. They bled, they died, but they never surrendered. And slowly, painfully, they were winning. Admiral Jiho stood on the bridge of the battlecruiser Indomitable and watched death approach his home system. The Vorthak First Fleet had emerged from hyperspace like a plague of metal locusts. 300 ships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. Their black hulls absorbed light, making them look like holes torn in space itself. "Fleet status report," Jiho ordered, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at his stomach. Lieutenant Haywan turned from her console, her young face pale but determined. 47 ships reporting ready, sir. The Seoul and Busan are still running diagnostics on their new shield generators." Jiho nodded. 47 ships. It had taken every vessel Earth could spare. Military ships, converted cargo haulers, even luxury yachts fitted with weapons. Against 300 Vorthak warships, it looked pathetic, but it was everything humanity had. "Sir," called out the communications officer, "the Vorthak fleet is broadcasting on all frequencies. Put it through." The main screen flickered to life, showing Supreme Commander Hesital and his command throne. The alien's red eyes seemed to burn with inner fire. "Humans of the Sol system," Hesital's voice boomed, "your time for surrender has passed. Your ships are outnumbered 7-1. Your weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Your armor cannot stop our plasma cannons. Withdraw your fleet now and we will make your deaths quick." Jiho stepped forward. "This is Admiral Jiho of the Human Defense Fleet. You are not welcome in our system. Leave now or we will force you to leave." The alien's laughter was like breaking glass. "Force us? With those primitive ships? Very well, human. Let me show you the difference between courage and stupidity." The screen went dark. Immediately, the Vorthak fleet began to move. Their ships flowed forward like a dark tide, energy weapons already charging. "All ships," Jiho broadcast to his fleet, "remember what we're fighting for. Every person on Earth is counting on us. Every child who dreams of tomorrow needs us to buy them time." He paused, looking at the faces of his bridge crew. "Today we show the galaxy what humans are made of." The first wave hit Jupiter's orbital defense platforms. The massive stations, built from converted mining equipment and salvaged alien technology, opened fire with everything they had. Particle beams and missile swarms reached out toward the approaching enemy. The Vorthak shields absorbed the attacks like they were nothing. Return fire came in deadly streams of plasma that cut through the defense platforms like paper. Explosions bloomed in the darkness of space, but the platforms had served their purpose. They had forced the enemy fleet to spread out, breaking their formation. Now the human ships moved in. Captain Dongwu led Fighter Squadron 7 in a desperate attack run. His 12 ships were tiny compared to the enemy vessels, but they were fast and hard to target. Using Jupiter's massive magnetic field to mask their approach, they dove toward the Vorthak fleet's flank. "Remember," Dongwu told his pilots over the comm, "we don't need to win. We just need to hurt them." The fighters struck like angry hornets. Their weapons barely scratched the Vorthak shields, but they forced several enemy ships to turn their guns away from the main human fleet. In the confusion, 3 human destroyers managed to get close enough to launch their new weapons, nuclear missiles modified with alien technology. The explosions lit up space. 2 Vorthak ships lost their shields. One suffered serious damage to its hull. For the first time in the battle, human weapons had drawn blood. The enemy response was swift and terrible. Plasma beams reached out like the fingers of death. The destroyer Incheon took a direct hit and broke apart. The cruiser Daegu tried to shield a damaged fighter squadron and paid with its life. But for every human ship destroyed, the defenders extracted a price. The crew of the damaged destroyer Gwangju pointed their ship at a Vorthak heavy cruiser and activated their engines at full power. The collision tore both ships apart, but it also created a gap in the enemy formation. Jiho saw the opportunity. "All ships, follow me through that gap. Let's show them how humans fight." The Indomitable led the charge. Her armor was already scarred from enemy fire, her shields flickering with each hit. But she pressed forward, her guns blazing. Around her, the rest of the human fleet followed. The battle raged across 3 days. In the asteroid belt, human mining ships used their industrial equipment as weapons. Giant rock cutters became ship killers. Ore haulers loaded with explosives became suicide weapons. Every piece of human technology became part of the fight. Commander Graketh, leading the Vorthak ground assault forces, watched the battle from his command ship. "These humans fight like they are insane," he told his lieutenant. "They ram damaged ships into our vessels. They use mining equipment as weapons. They refuse to retreat even when defeat is certain." His lieutenant, scarred from a dozen conquests, nodded grimly. "I have never seen anything like it. Usually, primitive species break when they lose half their fleet. The humans have lost 2/3 of their ships and they still attack." On the 3rd day, the human defense finally began to crumble. Only 12 ships remained operational. The Indomitable herself was held together by emergency welds and desperate prayers. Her bridge crew worked through smoke and sparks, their uniforms torn and bloodied. "Sir," Haewon reported, "we're down to 20% power. Life support is failing on decks 5 through 9. The main gun is completely destroyed." Jiho looked at the tactical display. The Vorthak fleet still had over 200 ships, though many showed damage. They had expected an easy victory and found a fight that cost them nearly 100 vessels. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "the Vorthak are demanding we surrender." "Tell them," Jiho said quietly, "that we don't know how." But even as he spoke, he knew the battle was over. Earth's orbital defenses were gone. The fleet was broken. The enemy was already moving toward the inner planets. Hesetal appeared on screen again, his scales darkened with anger. "Enough. Your resistance has been noted. You fight with honor, but honor cannot stop what comes next. We will land on your world and take what we came for." "Then you'll have to fight for every inch of it," Jiho replied. The Vorthak commander's eyes narrowed. "So be it. But know this, human. When we reach your world's surface, we will not show the mercy we might have shown a surrendering enemy." As the enemy fleet moved past the scattered remains of humanity's defense, Jiho made a final broadcast to Earth. "This is Admiral Jiho to Earth Command. The orbital defense has failed, but we hurt them. We made them bleed. They know now that humans don't die quietly." The Indomitable drifted powerless in space, her crew preparing to abandon ship. But they had bought Earth precious time. Time to prepare. Time to turn every city into a fortress. Time to show the galaxy that taking a human world would cost more than any conqueror had ever paid. The real fight was just beginning. The crystal halls of Nexus Prime stretched higher than any building on Earth. Ambassador Tae-jin walked through corridors filled with beings he still couldn't believe were real. A creature with 6 arms and blue skin glided past him. Another looked like a walking tree made of metal. After 2 years as Earth's representative, he still felt like a child among giants. The War Council chamber was massive. Tae-jin took his seat at the human section, a small chair at the very back. Around him sat representatives of hundreds of species from across the galaxy. Each had technology that made Earth look primitive. Each had lived among the stars for thousands of years while humans had barely reached their own moon. At the center of the chamber stood the Vorthak delegation. They were reptilian, each one nearly 8 feet tall with natural armor plating covering their bodies. Their eyes glowed red, and when they moved, the ground seemed to shake. Supreme Commander Hestel was the largest, his scales black as space itself. "The matter before us today is simple," Hestel announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. "The human system contains resources the Vorthak Dominion requires. We demand immediate surrender and evacuation of all human colonies." Murmurs filled the chamber. Taejin felt his heart race, but he forced himself to remain calm. He had known this day would come. Earth's solar system was rich in rare metals that powered faster than light travel. For years, the galaxy had ignored humanity because they seemed too primitive to matter. Now they wanted what humans had. "The terms are generous," Hessetal continued. "Humans will be relocated to suitable worlds. You will be given basic technology and left to develop peacefully. This offer expires in 7 solar cycles." A delegate from the bird-like Kastari Empire spoke up. "What if they refuse?" Hessetal's laugh was like grinding stone. "They will not refuse. No species is that foolish." The chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to Taejin. He stood slowly, aware that every being in the room was watching him. His hands were steady, though inside he felt like he was falling. "Ambassador Taejin of Earth requests permission to speak." The chamber moderator, a floating creature of pure energy, granted permission with a pulse of light. Taejin looked directly at Hestal. "The human government rejects your demands. Earth is our home. We will not abandon it." The silence that followed was deafening. Then the chamber erupted in noise. Some delegates chittered in alarm. Others made sounds of disbelief. A few seemed excited, as if they were watching something entertaining. "Impossible," said a delegate from the crystalline Xanthera collective. "No primitive species would dare refuse the Vorthak." Elder Kirmoth of the ethereal collective floated forward. He was ancient beyond measure, his translucent form shimmering with inner light. When he spoke, his thoughts entered Taejin's mind directly. "Young human, I have watched civilizations rise and fall for millennia. I have seen the Vorthak conquer 47 systems. Each species fought bravely at first. Each believed they were special. Each discovered they were wrong." The elder's mental voice was filled with sadness. "Your people will bleed. They will die in numbers you cannot imagine, and in the end, they will surrender as all others have." Taejin met the elder's gaze. "You don't know humans very well." More sounds of disbelief filled the chamber. The Aquinas delegate Fluxara clicked sadly. "We said the same thing to the Kethmori delegation 3 years ago. Their crystal cities were beautiful. Now they are dust and memory." Another delegate spoke up. "The humans have 47 ships. The Vorthak Third Fleet alone has 300. Their weapons are centuries behind ours," added another. "They have never fought a real war." Hessetal raised a clawed hand for silence. "The human speaks of courage, but courage cannot stop plasma cannons. Bravery cannot pierce energy shields. Honor cannot protect cities from orbital bombardment." He leaned forward, his red eyes fixed on Taejin. "I have conquered worlds with billions of inhabitants. I have faced species with technology superior to yours. They all surrendered in the end." "Then you've never fought humans before," Taejin replied quietly. The Vorthak commander's scales rattled, a sign of anger. "What makes your species so special? You live on one small world. You have barely reached your neighboring planets. Your largest ships are smaller than our fighters." Taejin thought of Earth, blue oceans and white clouds, cities full of people who had never seen the stars but dreamed of them anyway. Children playing in parks while their parents worked to build a better future. Scientists pushing the boundaries of knowledge despite having primitive tools. Artists creating beauty from nothing but imagination. "Earth is our home," he said simply. "It's the only world our species has ever known. Every human who ever lived was born there. Every story we tell, every song we sing, every dream we dream, they all come from Earth. You can't understand what that means because you've forgotten what home feels like." The chamber was quiet now. Even Hessetal seemed taken aback by the simple honesty in Taejin's voice. Elder Kirmoth spoke again, his thoughts gentle but firm. "Home can be rebuilt elsewhere. Life cannot be restored once lost. Your species numbers less than 12 billion. The Vorthak will not show mercy to defenders. How many are you willing to sacrifice for dirt and water?" "All of us, if necessary," Taejin answered without hesitation. The silence stretched longer this time. Finally, Hessetal spoke. "Very well. 7 solar cycles. Use that time to reconsider. When we return, we will bring the first fleet. 300 ships carrying weapons that can crack moons." He turned to address the entire chamber. "Let this be recorded. The humans were offered mercy and chose destruction instead. As the council session ended, delegates began to file out. Many avoided looking at Tai-Jin. A few nodded respectfully, but their expressions were sad. They had seen this before. Fluxara approached as Tai-Jin gathered his materials. "I am sorry," the Aquanus delegate said. "Your species seems honorable. It is tragic that honor alone cannot save you." "Maybe not," Tai-Jin replied. "But it's what makes us human." As he left the crystal halls of Nexus Prime, Tai-Jin carried with him the weight of his species' future. He had 7 cycles to return to Earth and prepare for war. 7 cycles to turn farmers and teachers and shopkeepers into soldiers. 7 cycles to prove that some things were worth dying for. Behind him, Elder Kirmoth watched the human leave. In all his long existence, he had never seen a species choose certain death over uncertain exile. Part of him hoped the humans would surprise him. Most of him feared they would simply become another tragedy in the galaxy's long history of conquest. The warning had been given. The choice had been made. Now both sides would discover what humans were truly made of.